There would be the answers. A would be less than or equal to -2 for number 1. 2 will be less than or equal to 3. And is greater than or equal to 9 for number 3. Is this the right one?
Yep. Yeah.
4, B is greater than or equal to -1. 5 goes from -5 to -2. Full circle, open circle. 6 shoots off in opposite directions. People seem to have issues with that. Make sure that's part of your. So far, so good. Just warming up here. 7 should be n is greater than -6. 8 is n is greater than 5. Absolute value, -1. Proceed forward. Make sure your max and your mins are in the right places there. One's upside down, one's right side up. One's an umbrella, one's a U. -14, -4x plus 1, 1/2x plus 1. And I don't know what the equation is for those, but I'm sure it's up there somewhere.
Yeah.
Your lines are there. We got the. I don't know what this is all about. Just ignore that. The Amazon smile. Crosses at +2. If you were doing this in interval notation, it would go -infinity to positive infinity, -infinity, positive infinity, -infinity, positive infinity. Y is greater than or equal to 2 means that the smallest point is -2 going to positive infinity. I should probably write that on there. I probably can.
You definitely can.
I probably will. This would be, oh, that's so big. The smallest y is ever going to be is -2, so that goes on this side, and it's equal to it, so you put that bracket. It's going to positive infinity, and that's always a parenthesis. All the rest of them are negative infinities to positive infinities. This then is the time when you say, hey, can you walk me through this? Can we do another review? There is somebody, Manny Rock.
Can you go back to 16?
I will go back to number 16. I'm guessing this one's 16. All 10 points.
Can you go back to numbers 9 and 10?
I would love to go back to 9 and 10. That's back here. 9 and 10. This is what? -1, -4 is your vertex, and this is 4, 3 is your vertex. It would be relatively easy to see if you did right or wrong. I know which one I'd ask a question about if I were you. If you got one wrong. You didn't get one wrong? Why are you raising your hand? Josh Shelton.
When do you do number 15?
Number 15. Let's find that up here in the wonderful world of 15. How would I do number 15? And again, this would be stuff that I would write down notes for myself. What? This is a linear equation, ladies and gentlemen. If you have an x and a y, none of them are squared. It's a straight, going to be a line. What type, Keith Stewart, of a linear equation is this? What form? Standard. And how do you solve or graph standard form ones? You use what we call the x and the y intercepts. You want to find where they cross the x and the y axis. Now, because you are in 8th grade, not always is this going to be like real precise and like work out nice and neat. It may end up being something goofy for you. Let's start with the easy one. Where does that cross the y-axis, and how do I know, Grace Trice? Why does it cross the y-axis?
Because
Where does it cross the y-axis?
-1.
How do you know that? Because you cover up the x. What's left there? Y equals 1. So make sure you're using the right axis. This is the y-axis, -1. We know it's going to cross there. Where does it cross the x-axis? Cover up the y. What's left when I cover up the y? I'm left with 2x equals -1. This is where it doesn't work out nicely. If I'm solving that for x, what do I get? Elijah Fisher? Right, because you divide by 2, x equals -1/2. So right here, where x is -1/2, it crosses there. Again, it's not pretty. Graphing, for all intents and purposes, is not like an exact science anyways, but this is going to get you close enough. Feel free to blow it up on your paper so you get a nice, oh, there's my 2 dots. That might be a little tough to do there. I'm going to draw a straight line betwixt the 2. Let me make it a little smaller. Maybe a little smaller. So you're just going to draw a straight line between those 2. It should cross through the whole thing, but apparently I can't do that. Your line will go through there. It's kind of wide. And something like that. X, Y intercepts. Other ones? Sorry about that. That one's good. By the way, this one is done the same way. I don't know if tomorrow they're both X and Y intercepts. It might be whatever. Where does this one, since we're on topic, let's do this. Cover up the Y. Where does it cross the x-axis? At -2. That's an easy one. So x-axis, -2. Cover up the x. What are you left with? You're left with -2y equals -2. How do you solve that for y? Divide by -2, divide by -2. Crosses the y-axis at +1. I think I should go a little smaller with my line. You just draw your line between the 2. Kate Kunacek.
Number 11.
I was hoping somebody would ask about that. Is that over here? It is.
No, it's the top.
Top of the next page, number 11. Love it. Again, I'd be having myself some notes if you're having trouble at all with quadratic there. But I can't live your life for you. First thing, Isabel, looking at that, I'm going to realize what?
It's going to be upside down.
Right, because of the -x², it is going to be an upside down. It's going to be an umbrella. So that in your mind, at least you get that far. Next thing I do is Brooklyn.
That's a good question.
You do the formula with the A, B, and C.
What is the A, what is the B, what is the C there?
A
is-
is -x².
No, it's just -1. It's a number in front of the x².
Yeah.
B is,
-2.
and C is,
+1.
And then you need to find the axis of symmetry. Have we done this before? I think so. Which is negative b over 2a. All stuff for your notes. Highly recommend parentheses. Many people don't. Your fault if you get it wrong because you mess up with that 2 times a. What do we end up with then? You get a positive 2 over a negative 2, which is, the axis of symmetry is negative 1. So right here, this is, axis of symmetry is where it crosses the x-axis. It is what the parabola is completely symmetric about. It is its line of symmetry, which we've done since whatever. Now what do I got to do? Riley O'Harrington?
Now you got C is your Y.
Alright, Riley's saying, okay, I'm going to put C as my y intercept, but you kind of stepped into it. And you can put the dot over there because they're equal distance apart. But that's not really, you need to do what? I mean, yeah, that's one of the steps, but they're not really the next one. Right.
Find the maximum and the minimum.
Right, you need to put your answer, put this into the equation to see where the top or the bottom of this is going to be. So it might be a good idea for you to jot down a little table of x and y values. One of them you have to put in for sure is your axis of symmetry, which was negative 1. And when I do that, I end up with negative x squared minus 2 times x plus 1. Putting in my negative 1s, let's change color because I know you're bored of red. As am I. Negative 1, negative 1. Negative 1 squared is a positive 1, but there's a negative out front, so it's negative 1. Negative 2 times negative 1, positive 2. Plus 1. Putting them all together, I have 3 to the good and 1 to the bad, which ends up being a positive 2. Which is good, why? Because I know it crosses there, and this is definitely going to give me the right shape parabola. Then you should have done what Riley said. This is where it crosses. This is where it crosses the y-axis. Cross that positive 1. I go 1 this way, 1 that way. And then my last step is I need one more point. Jason, what am I going to pick and why? What's a logical next point to pick?
One.
Sure. I would go with 1 because it's positive and you know it's going to be close to whatever's there. So you're going to put 1 into this whole thing just like you did with negative 1. Negative x squared minus 2 times x plus 1. I'm putting 1s in there this time. Last time I put negative 1s in there because that's my axis. One time, okay, negative 1, negative 2 plus 1. 3 to the bad, 1 to the good gives me a negative 2 for this. So here at 1, it's negative 2. And because this is symmetrical, this is 2 that way, I go 2 this way and put another point. There is everything I need to draw the world's best parabola. Always stop me there if something there did not register, make sense. All in 5, 4 easy steps. Did I do something wrong? Jason?
So what would be your way of finding the third point?
Nope. Graphing calculator, but we're not at that point just yet. What would you like? I mean, it's not that hard to put it in there. Look at it this way though, Jason. When you find 1 point, you found 2. So really it's a 2 for 1.
Well, if A is 1, after your first point, you can go like up or down 1 over 1, then up or down 3 over 1. If A is like 2, you double.
I don't know what that means, but if you're sure it works, go for it.
For sure.
It worked on every one of them? Did your teacher tell you that? I'm saying, I'm not sure which one.
12 is easier than.
Yeah.
But that's because
The
A is- A is
My way is not the only way, it's just the way that I know. If you got something else that really ends up being the same thing, I'm good with that. I just am not gonna spend time confusing everybody else. Yes, Elijah?
And I chance possibly to split it into.
Yes, please put it in interval. I'm not sure why it was on there. Probably because the last time I gave this test, I didn't review interval and notation very often. Altenburg?
Number 5.
Oh, the best problem in history. Number 5, ladies and gentlemen. What type of compound inequality is this? It is a and one. How do I know it's an and? Because it doesn't have the word or there. And when I have an and one, what happens with and inequalities? This is like my pre-thought before you even start. I want to know what my answer should look like. And, how is and different than or? Brianna? Yeah, ands come together like this. Ors, on the other hand, go off in separate directions. So in the end, I know that this and one should be one point to another point colored in the middle. So you have to take your equation and I will tell you I don't like this one, and I'll tell you why in just a second. First of all, you need to solve it for the letter in the middle. So what do I got to get rid of here? Divide by 5 because it's a multiplying by 5. And the rule is what you do to one side, you have to do to the other. And it's a positive 5. So the signs aren't going to change. So you end up with a -2, an A, and a -5. Now the thing I don't like about this, people, is usually when you have compound and equal equations, it's always less than signs, and these are both greater than signs. But it's a pretty easy fix because this whole thing is symmetrical. You can rotate it like it's got an axis in the middle and put the -5 over here and the -2 over there, and the signs would just kind of do that same exact thing. You don't have to, because if you put these dots in there, if you put a dot at -2, it's an open circle. If you put a dot at -5, it is back over here, and it's a closed circle, and it is just colored in between. Which is what this thing says. A is less than -2, which it's going this way, and A is greater than or equal to -5. Usually, this is the way it really should be written. A is greater than or equal to -5 and less than -2. But notice it's an and it is still colored in between. Open circle because it's not equal, closed circle because it is equal. Tip tip. Wink one.
Number 17.
Number 17. Oh, look at that. Did I do this one wrong? Maybe, maybe not. Maybe it was wrong. Was it wrong?
No, it isn't.
Okay. First thing, pre-thought on this. It's a square root sign. What is the graph of a square root? That's the Amazon. We've changed that
Oh,
to the
Amazon.
Amazon smile. Thank you very much. Which means it's going to look like this. Now notice, if this was negative, it's flipped upside down, but it's not negative. And then you just need to find, where does this point go? It's going to stay the same. You just need to figure out, is it going to go here? Is it going to go here? Is it going to go here? Here? There? I don't know. What tells me where it goes? Simply these two numbers. Here's my x number, which is -3. Here's my y number. That gives me my coordinates of where that point's going to go, except for one small problem. And that small problem is, Laney Kavarik, that the... Was it like a long birthday night last night? Is that what the deal is? Except for what, Laney? Yeah, the x value has to be changed to its opposite. This needs to become a +3. The y value stays the same. So wherever this point is here, that's this point here. So +3, 2. Here's +3, there's 2. Fortunately, I can just bump this bad boy up, and there's my answer. That is my answer. And it is the same in case you're wondering. For those of you that are worried about the absolute value sign, where is that? Is that the next page?
First page.
It's the first page. It's the same thought that you do with the absolute value. Same exact thing. Absolute value is, I'm going to do this. Instead of being the Amazon smile, it is just a V. But you need to find where that vertex point is. It's the same, you follow the same logic. Whatever's with the X in there is the X coordinate, whatever's on the outside is the Y coordinate, except the X one needs to be changed to its opposite. -1, -4. -1, -4. That's where that V is going to go. Oops. Where will this one go? Opposite of that, +4, +3. +4, +3. That's where the V is going to be. +4, +3. Most people seem to be pretty happy about this. Anybody new and uncharted territories, Riley Harrington, or is that on this page?
No, yes.
Oh, I love 4. What did you get, Riley, for number 4?
For 4, I got a closed circle at -1 versus a
Can I add? Oh, okay. All right. If that's an equation, Riley, what's the first thing you get rid of?
5,
And how do you do that?
subtract 5,
And if I subtract 5 from 2, I get
-3,
-3. How do I get V by itself, Riley?
divide by 3,
Divide by 3. If I take -3 divided by 3, I get a
-1.
What'd you say you got?
Oh, I switched the sign around.
No, only switches if this ends up going from negative to positive by multiplication and division. So at -1, closed in circle, because it can equal it going off to the right. There's gotta be more. Just has to be. Please note the difference between ands and ors. This is an or, they're going to go off in opposite directions. There are 2 separate equations. You don't solve these both together. You've got one that's 4m is less than 0, or equal to, so you divide by 4, you divide by 4, 0 divided by 4 is 0. So that's where the first thing came from. At 0, it's a closed-in circle, it's everything less than that. Your second equation is this one. Oh, and I am scared. Why? Because the letter is negative. I divide by -4, which changes the sign. Anytime you multiply divide by negative, divide this by -4, you get +4. M is greater than or equal to +4. Somebody, please, there has to be more. Wow, Merry Christmas. Shoot.
Number 3.
Didn't I do number 3 already? Didn't we do this one in class? And over 3, -5, greater than or equal to -2. Jade, first thing you do is?
Add 5.
Right. Does the sign change when I add 5? It does not. I'm not changing the letter. So now I have n over 3 is greater than or equal to +3, right? -2 plus 5. And then, to get n by itself, this is n divided by 3. The opposite of division is multiply both sides by 3.
Change the sign.
Sign does not change because the letter doesn't go from negative to positive. The only time the sign changes is when you multiply or divide by a negative, and I did not. N is just greater than or equal to 9. I would highlight that. feels very confident they're gonna pass this with flying colors? Who feels relatively confident that there's a chance that they may just pass it by some kind of colors, not multicolors, not flying colors? Who thinks they'll pass it with like, what's the opposite of flying colors?
Sitting
Walking
colors.
Sinking colors.
Sinking colors.
I don't know what part could be giving you trouble. To me, there's not a lot here. The math here is not hard. It's just confusing.
Branding.
Did you say branding? Nobody else, nothing? Cause I can stop right there. I will stop. I'm not going to beat the proverbial dead horse with anything. And, by the way, my camera is not working. However, I have gone to Movie Maker and it seems to be